It's time to go to Indianapolis and the Big Ten Championship game.
Penn State won 8 in a row, beat Sparty. Can they make it 9 in a row and beat Bucky?
What a great win for the guy. And I tell you what makes me the happiest. We keep the blue-white tailgate family together.
That's right.
One more week. It's bonus BWT time coming up next.
It's like your family at the holidays. We are what, Trey?
Dysfunctional.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, BWT family, dysfunctional. And we're back. All right. So here they are. Look what they've accomplished. 8 in a row, and I think they've done something people never expected.
Well, I certainly didn't expect it. I mean, to me, it's like I said, people asked me at the beginning of the year, you know, what do you think a good year is for Penn State this year? I said, with the amount of guys they have coming back, their offensive line, new coaches, they win 7, 8 games. It would have been a great year, Todd.
Well, what a special night it was. It's not many times you can roll out the stage as soon as you're done and go and hoist a trophy. So it was definitely a night to remember in Beaver Stadium.
All right, let's start out with the update desk and Mandy Niad. Mandy?
It's December, which means conference title games, and with the Big Ten Championship game comes Big Ten rules. Only 70 players are allowed per sideline, which doesn't limit how many can travel, but does make it interesting for injuries and playing time decisions. So let's take a look at the Health South Injury Update Board. Saquon Barkley says he will play this weekend after a right foot injury against Michigan State. Coach relayed the message that he feels great, he looks great, so great news there. Brendan Mann did not see any action last week, so his return is up in the air. Now let's take a look at the NFL and your Lions in the league. Sean Lee's 9 tackles for the Cowboys brings his season total to 66. And a special shout out to the rookie, Austin Johnson, who got his 2nd NFL career tackle in a Titans win over the Bears. Now for the college football coaching carousel. Mark Helfrich is out at Oregon, Charlie Strong is done with Texas after a 16-21 record over 3 seasons, and LSU has removed the interim tag from Ed Orgeron. Congratulations, which leads me to my star of the week. Coach Franklin named the Dave McClain Big Ten Coach of the Year. Congratulations, and back to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Mandy. Mandy will rejoin us later in the show to talk with Frank Bodani of the York Daily Record. I think you brought it up, Trey, and Todd, same thing. They're ahead of schedule right now.
Yeah, Coach Franklin, Coach of the Year, congratulations. Well deserved, by the way. Said they're right on schedule. And, of course, that's what you want to say. But I think everyone else that's outside of the program does feel it's a little bit accelerated. And some of the players I even talked to, Evan Schwan, after the game, I said, look, this timetable, especially for the seniors, Trey, you know, they wanted to go out with something like this. I don't think they were expecting this kind of season. Of course, they're enjoying every moment of it. And sure, let's accelerate that timetable. No problem. We'll have some fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that for, you know, again, is to think about this season. I don't think anyone saw it coming. But, you know, this team is a very unique, special group of kids and coaches. I mean, the fact is that, you know, everyone's saying they can't do this, they can't do that, but they keep doing their thing, and it's winning and it's successful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now we get to our opening statement presented by the law offices of Alan Kirk, Evan Schwan on the journey to this point.
It's a great feeling. I was standing on the stage with, you know, the guys that stuck around after we won the game this past weekend. I put that Big Ten East championship hat on, and we just kind of we're reminiscing a little bit, but, you know, our work's not done. You know, we have practice today. We have meetings at 3:15, and I just can't wait to you know, get ready for Wisconsin. And, you know, we've been getting ready for them really the entire season.
And this really is, I think, a classic 50-50 game. I don't think people really know who's going to win this going in. No real deep feel going in. Let's take a look at the series. There was a point where they were in the same division and they closed the year against each other for a couple of years in a row. And Penn State won the last time out in Madison, 31-24. Is that great game that Christian Hackenberg had that day, and Ryan Kaiser picked off that pass in the end zone to close it. But, I mean, this is an interesting matchup, I mean, in terms of pure matchup.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as a defensive guy, I mean, this is going to be kind of like the 08 Penn State-Ohio State game. It could be a 13-7, 14-10 kind of game. You're not going to be, it's not going to be the Big 12. I'm telling you right now, it's not happening.
Well, I look at it as a matchup of power versus finesse. And that's not to say the Nittany Lions can't power you, but they're a year or two away from that offensive line really being able to impose their will on other teams. And they run a little bit different offense to call them a power team. But Wisconsin and the Badgers are true Big Ten power team. They're pure power on offense and on defense as they come after you. And they've got some athletes, but I think Penn State has the speed advantage. I think they have the athletic advantage. And yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be interesting.
Great matchup. All right, let's take a look at the college football playoff standings released on Tuesday night. You can see Alabama and Washington, Ohio State, Clemson. So let's just delve into this for a moment. Alabama's won 12 in a row. Ohio State's won 5 in a row. Washington's won 4 in a row. Clemson's won 5 in a row. Wisconsin's won 6 in a row. Penn State's won 8 in a row. And Michigan's lost 2 of its last 3. Not exactly steamrolling down the stretch.
Do you remember the old days where late losses killed you in the college football season? Those days are obviously gone. And I can understand it to a certain point. You start to do some of the matchups, the head-to-head. People just can't get past that loss to Michigan by so much, 49-10. Yep. You can tell them all you want. Remove all your starting linebackers and then remove the guy that replaced your starting middle linebacker and see how your team does. They don't want to hear that. They see the final result against Michigan. And I got to tell you guys, listening to the committee, they've got Michigan placed to jump into that top 4 potentially if Washington falls out.
Coming up, we'll take a look at the Nittany Lion offense. Explosive in the third quarter as we continue with Blue White Tailgate. Down 12-10 at the break, and then the third quarter started. James Franklin has tried to tell his team in that spot all season. He says, when I need to tell them they're a second-half team, I tell them. And, Todd, they've been a second-half team.
Well, guys, it's a good thing that teams are not judged by the first half alone. Penn State has actually been outscored by their opponents in the first 30 minutes. There's something about those halftime breaks that ignites the Nittany Lions.
On the defensive side of the ball, I mean, we knew it wasn't necessarily what they were doing. Kind of just us needed to be more composed, simple as that. And we came out and we did that. We kind of just needed to take a breath.
More like a sigh of relief for the defense once Trace McSorley and the offense took control of the game. Penn State torched the Spartans deep 3 times immediately after halftime. It's a familiar theme. The Lions are beating the competition 280-105 in the final 2 quarters.
As soon as we came out in the second half and put those 2 touchdowns up and stopped them, they really had nothing left, and we rolled like we do every second half. We didn't talk about too much. We played our game, and we just played harder than they did in the second half.
It's the mark of a good coaching staff, halftime adjustments. Against Michigan State, they knew the Spartans were susceptible to the long pass.
And they were playing really soft at defensive back. So basically saying, we're going to overload you in the box, make it difficult for your young offensive line to pick up all the games. And we're not going to allow you to get the chunk plays on us. But, we got wide receivers and tight ends that we feel like if we can hold on to the ball and give them time to get down the field, they can make plays with it.
The second half burst propels the Nittany Lions into the Big Ten Championship. Here's the lesson. If Penn State is tied or even a little behind heading to the locker room, breathe that sigh of relief. This team has proven the best is yet to come. And boy, did those floodgates open up right after halftime. I don't think Michigan State knew what was coming, and they did what you're supposed to do. You put a 3-8 team down, and you keep them down.
And they did that. And look at the powder keg, all right? Here's how it had played out in the third quarter. They ran 12 plays, 183 yards, 15 yards of play, 21 points. Game, set, and Eastern Division Championship. It's all over at that point. Now let's get to the drive of the game. Drive of the game is brought to you by our good friends at Stocker Chevrolet, located on the Better Pike across from the Nittany Mall. This is the drive down 12-10 that put them in front to stay And it starts with Saquon Barkley, but then, Trey, they just start hitting some big plays, and it starts, obviously, with what Trace McSorley can do.
Yeah, I mean, he's got great feet. Like I said, you know, when I saw him before the season started, I was just really surprised at how quick he was. And, you know, he's legitimately a good running quarterback. You know, they throw the ball around. It's not a matter of them not scoring or not having big plays. It's eventually going to happen. I mean, they're just too good offensively for that to happen.
Okay, what happened on this, they sent the corner on a blitz, and Barkley picked it up.
Yep.
And Nicholson, the safety, it's a great double move, and Nicholson's supposed to cover it up, and he took the wrong angle. It's an easy play. Made it 17-12, they never looked back.
You know, and I asked Chris Godwin after the game, did you have them set up for the double move in the second half? And he said, well, we did. We didn't really talk about it, but we knew it was going to be there. And he really gave Coach Moorhead a lot of credit for calling those plays at just the opportune time.
And Barkley picked up Hicks on the blitz. That was what made the big play there. All right, that's our Drive of the Game brought to you by Stocker Chevrolet. Now our Offensive Player of the Week brought to you by the Family Clothesline. A career night for Trace McSorley with 376 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. You want your quarterback to come up big. He was 17 of 23, Trey.
It's unbelievable. I mean, the fact is we've talked about this all along. The kid won 55 games as a high school football player. He's a winner. You know, the guys respect him. You know, he's not afraid to take chances. And, you know, he's just playing with a lot of confidence right now.
17 completions, 370 yards. He's one of the nation leaders in completion yardage in the country. He's close to 20 yards of completion for this year, Steve. I mean, that's amazing statistics for the guy.
Downfield, and one of the things that you see, I mean, here's more action from the game, but what you see out of him, and this is something Jack Ham and I talked about early in the season, some guys, when they go to run, put their head down and they're just determined they're going to run. When he breaks the pocket, he keeps his head up and he's looking to make a play downfield, and that's something James Franklin says has been a big reason why they've hit some big plays.
I think the explosive plays come from Trace's mobility. When he is able to step up in the pocket and extend plays, and he's also one of these quarterbacks that when he steps up in the pocket and extend plays, and even when he's kind of on the run, his eyes are downfield. That puts your underneath coverage and defense in conflict. Are they going to step up and stop Trace from running? And when you do that, that creates, you know, really good throwing lanes.
There's a couple things that come into play with Wisconsin coming up. The throwing lanes is one thing. And Wisconsin, they had 12 interceptions total last year, guys. They've had 11 the last 3 weeks. Extremely impressive. But you know what? When you look at their schedule, they haven't really played a team that really throws the ball well.
Yeah, no, they haven't. They have not, and I think they're going to be exposed on Saturday. The fact is, you've got a quarterback who's playing with a hot hand right now. You've got probably the best receiving tandem, or best receivers in the Big Ten in Penn State, and I think it could be very interesting. I think it's either going to be a really close game, or it's actually Penn State's going to win big, I think.
Look, the formula works in college football. You can throw the ball, and in the Big Ten especially, we've seen it happen. If you've got a quarterback that's accurate and you can hit your receivers, hit the zones, hit those spots that you need to, hook up, have a good connection with the wide receiver, you can move the ball, and Penn State can move the ball through the air. When the rushing game is shut down, which it was against Michigan State for a good part of that, they can still move the ball because Trace is accurate and he finds those guys, and they can make big plays downfield. 21 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's having a phenomenal season.
Well, let's take a look at the matchup statistically of the Penn State offense and the Wisconsin defense. Wisconsin's defense has been outstanding. You look how they take away the run game there, guys. That's big in this. But again, I go back to the fact that teams haven't thrown the ball against them because they haven't played great passing teams yet this year. There's another part that comes into play, too. The two linebackers, which we'll get into later, Watt and Beagle, really, really good, rarely out of position. They always play Beagle to the field. They always play Watt to the boundary. And you have to keep track of those guys, and that's where the offensive line is going to come into play here.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive line is playing well. I mean, it just seems like every week they get better and better and better, and they have that confidence, regardless of the fact is, you know, the next man up. I mean, how many injuries have we had on the offensive line? You've got guys that haven't played a lot of football, and they're playing well, Todd.
Yeah, and they're so young. I mean, you know, Coach Franklin said 9 out of the 13 that traveled a couple of weeks ago were freshmen. I mean, they're doing a great job, and they're growing as the season goes on. And what everybody says this time of year, they're not freshmen anymore, right?
Yeah.
They're experienced.
But you know what? One of the big parts of this game will be which team gets to the front. Okay, Wisconsin's one of the great front runners in the history of college football. They average 35 minutes of possession per game. That's #1 in the nation. All right, so the Penn State defense, can they set up the offense to make some plays? We'll talk about the Nittany Lion defense and where they are now as we continue with Blue White Tailgate. On the radio broadcast Saturday, I invoked Joe Paterno's name because it's a saying we've heard many times. It takes 3 field goals, Joe said, to beat a touchdown. All right? How often did you hear that?
I wasn't a math major, but I get that.
Yeah, you get that. Well, 4 drives for Michigan State in the first half. All 4 ended in scores, but all 4 were field goals. And then in the second half, they pitched another shutout.
Yeah, I mean, they're just playing so well right now. The fact is that, you know, I think we haven't given up a touchdown in the last 2 games. So
Sure.
You know, you think about that, and you think about, like, how much, you know, we're talking about the offense scoring all the points, but the defense has really inserted themselves into this mix.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but what a motivator as well for the defense, too. Just hang in there, keep them off the board, and you know the offense is going to get it going once the second half goes. So keep this game tight. And look, this could be the same type of game. In Michigan State and Wisconsin, somewhat similar. But if Penn State's defense is a bend but don't break type of defense in the first half and keeps the offense in it, eventually we've seen they're going to catch fire.
Yeah.
Since falling behind Indiana 24-10, Penn State has outscored its opponents 115-19.
Yeah.
How about that? All right. Brandon Bell had 18 tackles in the game. So it didn't take long for our crack staff to say, you know what, let's make him the family clothesline defensive player of the week. And in his final game in Beaver Stadium, B. Bell played well. Mr. Linebacker, you take over here and tell us why he's become a good linebacker.
I mean, the thing is, it's like he's playing with so much confidence. You know, he was banged up a little bit earlier in the season. The fact is, you know, certainly that happened to me in my senior year, and you just want to get out there and just, you know, kick some you-know-what. But, I mean, he's got speed. He's a big-time guy. He's got a lot of confidence. He leads that, you know, that defense, and he's a tough guy. I mean, you can't play that position being soft. Unless you're LeVar Arrington, who's like really soft. But just kidding, LeVar.
And he's got that twitch about him, too. Like, it's responsibility, and now go. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to keep my area, but as soon as he sees where it's going, even if it's on the other side of the field, he's got that twitch, and he just takes off, and he's always around the football by the end of that play.
Yep.
I don't think it's any coincidence that Penn State is currently 7-0 when Jason Kabinda and Brandon Bell are in the starting lineup this season. 7-0. Hit of the week belongs to Marcus Allen. Tyler O'Connor says, hey, you know what? I think I'll throw it over the middle. I think you made a bad choice. Monty Medeiros, you have been hung out to dry. Right there. Bang. Marcus Allen laying a little bit of lumber right there. Hey, let's do it from ground level. Guess what? Same result. Oh, always a great feeling. All right, we ran the numbers earlier, offense versus defense. Now the Penn State defense against the Wisconsin offense. Here are the numbers and how they stack up there between the two. And when you look at the numbers between the two, we all know, obviously, that they want to run the football. Now, they'll mix in the pass decently, but it's all the play action means everything to them, Trey.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you think about it, we talked about it earlier. I mean, they lead the country in time of possession, 35 minutes a game. So what does that mean? It means that if you have the ball, the other guy can't score, and if you protect the ball, they're +9 in turnover margin this year, which is one of the best in the country. They're not going to be. You're not going to be able to score if you don't have the ball, Todd.
More rushing yards than passing yards. You don't see that very often for a team that's this successful this day and age in college football. Too much, you know. Which means what Penn State's going to try and make them one-dimensional. I mean, you got to take away that rushing game. It's all about the line of scrimmage for the Badgers. They want to control it. Steve, you mentioned the time of possession. They want to control the ball, and they want to keep it out of your hands, and they have to control the line of scrimmage in order to do that.
The one thing that for them they don't want to be in, the uncomfortable position of playing from behind. That's not their MO, okay? You know, do they have comeback ability? Yeah, but is it what they want to do? Absolutely not. And now you sit there, you get to this point. Each team has played 12 games, and you ask yourself, all right, you start asking yourself, well, who do they remind you of here? Who do you remind you of there? So, Evan Schwan, you've looked at the tapes. Who do they remind you of?
If I were to compare Wisconsin to any other team, I think it would be Michigan State, actually. They do a lot of the same kind of 11, 12, 22 personnels. They like to use, a tight end with a wing off, do a lot of trades and shifts. And I'm happy that, we got to play Michigan State this week because it's going to prepare us for the game that we have this week.
It turned out that Bart Houston started the season as a quarterback. Then the redshirt freshman left-hander Alex Hornibrook then took over. Who, by the way, his sister Mackenzie is a swimmer on the Penn State swimming team, okay, out of Malvern Prep. So 2 quarterbacks. One's left-handed, one's right-handed. Any difference?
No, there's no difference at all. I mean, the fact is that for Wisconsin to be successful, what they need to do is run the football. If we can get them into 2nd down and long, 3rd and long, it's going to be a long night for them.
Yeah, you mentioned the down and distance. Absolutely. I'm interested to see how much Coach Pry sells out to stop the run. We talk about this all the time, what teams will do to Penn State to stop Saquon Barkley. I want to see what our defense does to put them in uncomfortable down and distance situations in that 3rd down and see what happens. We've seen the 2-quarterback system from a lot of teams just last week. Playing off of what Evan said about they remind you of Michigan State a little bit. You had Terry in there before he got dinged up, and now the lineup. We've seen it a lot. These teams are trying to use 2 quarterbacks. I think defenses have more trouble with the guy that is more mobile if they can complete their passes, and that's what was happening against the Spartans in the first half.
Keep them off schedule. That's the key. All right, so how do you keep them off schedule? We're going to take a trip to the film room now. Jay, what do you have coming up in the film room, and what does the film tell you about Wisconsin?
Coming up in the film room, we're going to talk about why 1st and 2nd downs are going to be key for Penn State's defense and why Penn State's going to have to throw the ball against Wisconsin's defense.
Welcome into the film room, brought to you by Letterman Sports Grill and Gastropub, which is also the host for the Coaches Show on Thursday nights. Now for the marquee matchup, Penn State offense versus Wisconsin defense. What should Penn State fans be worried about?
Well, I think they'll be worried about, number one, Wisconsin against the run game, and then they're really a good pass defense. They've shown that. But let's talk a little bit about, we'll take a look at our first graphic here. We'll talk about why they're so good against the pass game. They get to the quarterback, 31 sacks, 35 quarterback hurries, and then you look at 53 passes broken up, 21 interceptions. So you look at over 40% of the incompletions against Wisconsin were either picks or they were broken up by their secondary. So it's going to be a real challenge. Now, one of the things that Penn State's going to be able to take advantage of, I think, is when Wisconsin gets into their nickel defense, they're going to play man-to-man the outside. They want 7 guys around the ball. They're shorter in the secondary, so Penn State's taller receivers should match up well. And you can also dictate who's going to cover your tight end by where you put him. You put him in the boundary, you're going to get Musso covering him. If you put him in the field, you're going to get the other guy covering. So they're going to be able to dictate some things. But let's take a look at the first video, and you'll see how effective they are against the run game. They've got six guys in the box and a strong safety that's around. And when the tight end blocks, he's going to be down there making tackles. The other thing that they do very, very well is they play trail technique, which makes you throw the ball up and over. And they have a deep secondary safety that's able to make plays. The other thing that they do nicely, which will do a good job against Penn State with McSorley, is they double up the back with the linebackers when they don't blitz. So whichever way the running back goes, that linebacker will take him. The other one frees up to play the quarterback in the run game. But take a look here on this video. You'll see how the trail technique on the slot receiver, he gets him, forces Illinois' quarterback to throw it over the top, and just throwing that ball a little bit over the top enables them to make a pick, and all of a sudden Wisconsin's got the ball. And again, 21 interceptions on the year is a huge, huge number. Now, the other thing they do is they make some adjustments. They're able to blitz with linebackers and get games up front and get their defensive ends, their stand-up outside linebackers into the pass rush, and then they drop into zone and take away the easy throws, force you to the outside. Take a look at this on the video here. You can see the middle linebacker comes, Watts swings around and gets free, and again, there's no easy throws to him. They're forcing the outside throws, and those things have been problems for Penn State this year. When we take a look at the next graphic, one of the big worries for Penn State is going to be the run game. Barkley has had a tough couple of games the last 3 weeks. That's not a good trend. The other thing, Wisconsin has been good against running quarterbacks, and you look at the 3 best ones they've handled, and they've done a good job against them. But let's take a look at how they're able to do that. In their nickel package, they have 2 outside linebackers playing stand-up. So even when you get the zone read, they have a chance to force the quarterback to carry it and react athletically or even chase it down from behind. Take a look at this play here. This is an outside run play. He sees the ball handed off and makes the play on the other side of the center, and that's a big-time play. Now, when you flip the other side of the ball, when Wisconsin is on offense, first and second downs are going to be the key in this game. One of the things Wisconsin's done a great job this year is they overload you to one side, they get your secondary kicked around, and by pulling guards, tackles, and tight ends, they're able to run the ball back to the other side. And take a look at this video here. You're going to see them. They're overloaded. Illinois' defense kicks around the field. All of a sudden, they're running backside with just one little jab step, getting north and south. They're also able to do this out of one back, which a lot of teams can't do because their offensive line isn't athletic enough. So they give a trips formation in the field. They get the defense kicked over that way. All of a sudden, you got a tackle pulling this way. The tailback's going to take that jab step and get north and south. And you see the linebackers react, and this guy makes a great cut. And you'll see here as well that he makes a great cut. Okay, and again, gets north and south. Now, after this video, we'll take a look real quick at the graphic that we have that shows their run game. 3 running backs playing for them, almost 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns. And on Saturday night, take a look for Shaw, number 7, when he comes into the game, because he may have the most speed or the most of them may be the most dangerous. Now, let's take a look at their play-action pass. A hard play-action pass team. So what I mean by that is they're actually going to block the run play. So you're going to see the guard pulling, you're going to see the fullback pulling, and those are keys for linebackers. And when they pull, these guys are going to fly, and all of a sudden the quarterback's front side with the back out there, a corner route over the top, and now a third guy coming. So take a look at that. You see how hard a run fake they make on the front side with the lineman and with the fullback going backside. All of a sudden now you got a running back out in the flat. And again, these are all first and second down calls that you're going to make. So those things are going to be what Wisconsin likes to do on those rundowns. Now, when they get to third down, they struggle throwing the ball, but their ace up their sleeve is going to be their screen game. They've done a great job. And in a screen game, you want to get the pass rush up the field. You want to get the back between the pass rush and the coverage and the lineman, and you'll see how effective it is on a 3rd and 12 against Purdue. Quarterback drops back to pass. A team like Penn State that loves the pass rush, when they get up the field, you're able to slip that screen in behind them. And again, they do a great job in the open field running on those screen plays. And again, big first down. So Penn State's got to be ready for that on 3rd.
Now, earlier this week, Evan Schwan was asked to compare the Wisconsin offense to another team's. He chose Michigan State as the most similar. Would you agree?
I think so. I think Michigan's similar and Pitt, and I think it's going to come down if Penn State can force Wisconsin to throw the ball on 3rd downs. They're going to have a great night.
All right, more Blue White Tailgate coming up. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Blue White Tailgate. Penn State has a lot of great reporters that cover this team. One of them is Frank Bodani of the York Daily Record. Mandy Niad has a chance now to talk with Frank.
Thanks so much, Steve. I'm joined now by Frank Bodani with the York Daily Record. He's been covering Penn State football and sports since 1994. Welcome to the Blue White Tailgate.
Oh, hey, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to join.
Well, we're happy to have you here. Coach Franklin got Big Ten Coach of the Year award. What do you think are his chances of nabbing that National Coach of the Year award?
Well, I think they're good. I think it would really help him if Penn State wins the Big Ten title on Saturday night. Kind of completes one, a big step of their journey. Really, I think that's what he needs. And I think who's more deserving? I mean, there's some guys out there that Colorado's coach, they've had a great turnaround. But I think where Penn State was last year and the beginning of this year to where they are now, it just stands out. I mean, to me, it's, I guess, a little biased because I cover the team, but to me, it's still the college football story of the year.
And speaking more to James Franklin, what does it really say about his ability to change his offensive philosophy and bring in a guy like Joe Moorhead?
Well, I was talking to a recruiting kind of guru guy today, and he said, the mark of a really good coach is someone who can recognize when they need to change, goes about doing it the right way, and that's exactly what James did. I mean, he realized things weren't working on offense, found the right guy who runs a system that you pretty much have to have. You have to be able to spread people out in today's game, and it's worked wonderfully. Penn State looks like a new team, and he's made a couple of good coaching hires. And I think a lot of people think Joe Moorhead may be the coaching hire of all college football in the past year.
And speaking to those other coaching changes and hires, I know Brent Pry has been around the program for years, but he was officially promoted to defensive coordinator this year. Talk about the job he's done with the defense.
Oh, it's incredible. Brent doesn't get a whole lot of publicity, doesn't have a big name, doesn't have that kind of high-profile background. But when Penn State lost all of their starting linebackers in the first 3-4 weeks, I've never seen that before in all the years I covered Penn State football, being able to handle that and regroup from that and really hold things together for a while, because it took, Jason Kabinda and Brandon Bell were each out for at least a month. And what they did is they turned a really tough situation into a good one. Now, when those guys come back, they actually have really good depth. They're better off than when they started. So the way that they haven't really lost a beat, I guess, so to speak, and they're better now. And I think they're getting better each week as we still go, which is a hard thing. So he deserves all the credit.
Well, speaking to giving credit, Big Ten honors went to Tyler Davis and Garrett Sickles this week. Talk about some of the plays and, that you've seen that have impressed you from those guys.
Well, I don't know if anyone really knew Tyler Davis before last year, knew his name or anything. And he has been the steadiest kicker. I mean, their special teams have been an issue the past few years. So to have somebody come in and solidify that, you can count on that guy from 40 yards in, probably 45 yards in, really every time. James Franklin called him the team MVP after the Rutgers game. And then Garrett Sickles, wow, I mean, he had all the talent in the world when he came to Penn State, just took a little bit of time. Never seen probably a second half of football by a defensive end as what he showed against Ohio State, the way he dominated their offensive line.
I know Saquon Barkley says he feels great, but is there any reason to be concerned? Injury has kept him from finishing these last two games?
I look at it this way. Joe Moorhead and Penn State, I think they can win the game even without Saquon. I think he's going to give it a go. But, you have three tailbacks right behind him that are going to have to step up at some point. I think those guys are relishing the chance to help the team, too, if Saquon can't be 100%. So it'll be intriguing. I don't think it's a make or break, though, for Penn State.
Penn State, they're 10-2, fighting for their first outright Big Ten title in 22 years. Did you see the season unfolding this way? And can we get a prediction from you for the Wisconsin matchup?
No, I don't think anybody saw the season going this way. But once they started 2-2 and had all the injuries, there's no way I would have seen an 8-game winning streak. So all the credit to the coaching staff and to players that really stepped up more than I think anybody realized that they would so soon, like quarterback Trace McSorley, done a tremendous job. And they have so much confidence they're playing with right now. They're such a good second half team. They're really pretty focused and patient. I think they figure out a way to win a close game, maybe even going away a little bit in the second half on Saturday night. I'm thinking Penn State can maybe win 27-17 on Saturday night, something like that.
Well, Frank, I'll let you get back and enjoy the York weather. Thank you so much for joining us. And Steve, back to you.
Mandy, great job as always. Frank, thanks so much for being with us as well. Coming up, we'll take a look at Wisconsin. What makes Wisconsin tick, and how can Penn State slow them down as we continue after this?
Let's go! 1, 2, 3! 1, 2, 3! Red!
They have a lot of running backs. They have a big offensive line, and they have a defense that is really good, especially at linebacker. Wisconsin, Paul Chryst was the offensive coordinator under Brett Bielema, and then he finally took the Pitt job, and the timing of Bielema going to Arkansas didn't work out for him to come back, but when Gary Anderson left, he came back, and he has done a great job. Let's take a look at the Paul Chryst file, as a matter of fact. And you can see what he's done. I mean, the Pitt team you see today, he recruited. That's his group.
Yep.
So you can blame the defense on him. I'm just kidding.
He looks like a skinnier version of Chris Christie, the great governor of New Jersey.
Oh, jeez.
Just throwing it out there.
But you know what? This is a guy who is not a, quote, media darling. He's just people say he's a really good guy and just a really good football coach.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's all.
Yeah, he's not the press conference guy.
Yeah.
You know, he gets in the press conference and wows everybody in the press conference, the way you used to. No.
Behave. It's the holiday season, Steve.
Yeah. That's a nice shirt. I mentioned the two quarterbacks earlier, Bart Houston and Alex Hornibrook. I asked if there were any differences. No real differences, except one is left-handed. But Hornibrook moves better, and I think that's the one you worry about, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the guy. Anytime you have a running quarterback, those are the guys you have to be concerned about. It sounds like, just hearing James in the press conference yesterday, that he's going to be able to go. I would be surprised if he doesn't play, Todd, but we'll see.
Well, I think where he's going to be most dangerous is maybe with play action on first and second down.
Yeah.
Those obvious running downs that they could do some play action and mix stuff in. Look, you want Bart Houston back there, in my opinion. He's 6'4", 235. If you're Penn State, you want Bart Houston back there. He's a stationary target, and we've got enough speed ends. We've got enough speed. We've got enough power to go get the quarterback. I think they've proven that stationary quarterbacks don't work too well against Penn State.
You know, and remember the previous segment, Evan Schwan talking about they remind him of Michigan State. Okay, that's what they remind him of. Well, Jazz Peavy's a good example of that. He's a lot like R.J. Shelton. They'll get him 4 to 8 times in a game. Wide out, jet sweeps, things like that. But what about going up against that offensive line, Evan Schwan? That's a lot of beef there.
Yeah, you know, this Wisconsin offensive line, they're big, they're physical. It's the typical, you know, corn-fed Wisconsin boys. And they have a really good physical back. And you know, it's going to be on our defense, and I think more specifically up front with our defensive line to come out and strike our keys, and we're just going to have to gel really well on defense to have success. And
during the commercial break, where you make some of your greatest points, I might add.
Off air.
Where you talked about Penn State's defensive front. They don't talk about them enough, and they've got an element that maybe Wisconsin might struggle with.
No, I think they're definitely going to struggle with our defensive line. We have not really talked about those guys all year long. I mean, they're bringing it to the woodshed every single play. They're aggressive. They're fast. You reload. Sean Spencer's done a great job with that group, and I think they're going to give Wisconsin a lot of problems, Todd.
And what about Corey Clement now? This guy, he has some big play ability to him, but he's 4.2 yards a carry, and he just keeps going forward all the time.
Well, and Trey, you mentioned the defensive line. They have got the ultimate task this week for Corey Clement. You're looking for a reason as to why Wisconsin's in the Big Ten title game. We'll go to Corey Clement. 6 100-yard rushing games in the last 7 games. He's not doing it against inferior competition either. His best game of the year against Ohio State, over 160 yards rushing with 25 carries. So they've proven they can run the ball against the best in the country.
And what about this defense? This defense gets it done, and they do it by ball hawking. You look at what they've done. Here it is. There they are, 21 interceptions, but 11 of those are in the last 3 games, and James Franklin knows that pressure from Watt and Beagle on the outside makes a big difference in that pass defense.
Obviously, you know, we go into each week saying that these are the guys that we need to be aware of, and these are kind of the game wreckers that, you know, have shown that they can take over a game and be a problem for people, and we better know where these guys are on every play. And in the run game, we better be double teaming and working to those guys, or in the pass game, we better have somebody assigned to them in protection. You know, those guys are it.
I mean, Beagle's never out of position. Watt has 13 tackles for losses, 10 sacks so far this year. Really good, and that sets up the secondary.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is the secondary having 21 interceptions is really, really exceptional. But again, I think, you know, for us, you know, they have not seen a team with the talent that we have at quarterback and all the wideouts that we have. And I think, Todd, that's going to be the difference in the game.
Linebackers are huge. They're 6'4" and 6'5". Secondary, not quite as big. They're good, but they're not quite as big. Shelton's 5'9". But I think the key for the passing game, and I think the key for Wisconsin's defense is, you mentioned it, Steve, they're going to be in the right spot. What the Nittany Lions can't do is be in the wrong spot. So if McSorley wants to throw to a spot and his receiver and him are having a miscommunication, that's where you're going to see a pickoff. That's where you're going to see a turnover and potentially change the game.
We'll wrap it up after this. The joy of a championship in your own stadium. It's a great feeling. Penn State had that feeling in 2008, winning the Big Ten title on their home field, this time the Eastern Division Championship. And it ends up paying off in a Coach of the Year honor for James Franklin, as voted by the media, Paul Chryst selected by the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be any happier for James. The fact is, you think about it, Penn State's 2-2. You got people, I have people calling me saying they should run James Franklin out. I'm like, give the guy a break, for God's sakes. I mean, he took over a program where, you know, we're just basically outgunned because we don't have the guys, all the sanctions and all the other nonsense. You know, he's deservedly, in my opinion, Coach of the Year.
By the way, to me, this Coach of the Year is to the entire staff.
Yes.
I mean, that's the entire staff
Yes.
award. It goes to them. Now we get to the part of the show where I believe we excel. The good, the bad, and the ugly. My good will be very simple today. Penn State football in 2016 has brought the joy back to football on this campus because it's unexpected and you can just see it. There's a happiness in the stadium. It's not an us against the world feeling anymore. It's just people are loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if I had the good, I would say their offense. But I have the bad, so I'm going to say Pitt's defense. When you need 62 points, 60 is not enough against Syracuse. That's really bad. Now, yes, they scored 76. That's phenomenal. Highest scoring game in FBS history in regulation. But you gave up 61 to Syracuse. If they had any defense, guys, they'd be playing in the ACC Championship. Had an outstanding year, 8-4. The offense has been tremendous. The defense is bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like Pitt, so I don't really care what they are. But anyway, so my ugly is one of my favorite people in college football. I really like a lot. Not even close, Jim Harbaugh. Are you kidding me? Him whining in the press conference after the game is so, and the guy makes $8 million a year, all right, and they're going to fine him 10 grand. Give me a break. I mean, my ugly is him whining. How about, like, you throw a pick six? How about you put the ball on the ground inside the 5-yard line? How about all the plays that you did not make your team? And then you're going to whine about the officials? So my ugly is Jim Harbaugh, and if I don't have to see him ever again, I'd be fine.
Time now for our picks. Let's see where we stand to this stage. I brought a paper bag, by the way. Just breathe a little bit. Yes. You see where we are right now. So I see you went 4-0 last week. Come on. I don't know if you could emotionally overcome after the rant there. All right, so Jay, we'll start with you because you end up with the ACC title game, Clemson and Virginia Tech.
Well, I've got Clemson and Virginia Tech in the ACC Championship. I'm going to go with my heart here because I want the Big Ten champion to get in. I'm taking Virginia Tech to beat Clemson because that's what I want. Not necessarily what I think, but what I want.
All right, Jay, I've got the American Championship, Temple and Navy. Navy, great ground game, but you know what? I'll go with Temple in this one. You get the SEC. By the luck of the draw.
Yeah. Okay, number one, Alabama, okay, who could beat probably 3/4 of the teams in the NFL because they cheat, versus Florida. I think Alabama literally takes them to the woodshed, and I would not be surprised if it's a multiple double-digit game against Florida.
Jim McElwain may be gone, by the way. He may take the Oregon job, go back to where he's from. Anyway, all right, de facto Big 12 championship, Oklahoma State, Bedlam. I like Baker Mayfield at home in Norman to give the Cowboys a non-debatable second loss of the year.
All right, quick keys. Todd, we'll go with you.
Stay loose. It's a close-knit group and finish strong. I have a feeling they're going to need something big, a big drive in the fourth quarter, and they've proven they can be clutch.
Trey?
Got to keep them close on first and second down, put them in a position they have to start to throw the ball.
Yep, I think the throwing game is a big part of this for Penn State in this one. I think the key overall, play with the lead. Which team can get to the 5-minute mark to go in the third quarter with the lead? That's the team I think that can take it home. Yep. All right. Big Ten Championship game coming up on Saturday night at 8 o'clock, Lucas Oil Stadium. For Todd, Trey, Jay, Mandy, I'm Steve. Thanks for joining us on the Blue White Tailgate Show.